Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out GITGUDRacing.com, where I'm offering the most accessible coaching sessions on the market.
Now for the track guide. For turn 1, you want to open it up as much as you can by using this part of the track. So you're gonna put the left tires on the left of the white line, like right this, and you're gonna turn the car with 100% throttle. So you really want to maximize the speed that you're gonna carry into this corner, because ultimately this speed is gonna give you downforce to take the corner. So going at 100%, and right now it's just about delaying the moment in which you're gonna drop the throttle, because this corner is almost flat out, almost. You have to do a lift. I like to do also a small brake, but this is how I'm gonna do it. So still going, and at this point right here, I'm starting to drop the throttle and add just a bit of brakes, like 5% braking right here. And whenever I see that the car is turning nicely into the corner, because I want to apex around this curve and cut it a bit, then I'm going back on throttle. And the car is gonna get pushed wide, it's okay. Ideally, you don't want to go on top of the corner, like on top of the curve like I did here. So you want to be very close to this orange line, but not going completely over the curve. So this was a bit of a mistake, because if you're gonna take this curve, the car is gonna get pushed a bit wider. It's okay, because if you don't go on the grass, obviously, it's okay. But ideally, you won't take that curve, because it will push you in an uncomfortable position, and now you have to steer a bit more, so overheat a bit more the front tire. So overall, not ideal, not too bad, but try to avoid it. What's important to see is this shape. So going off throttle, just a bit of brakes and back on throttle, and you're gonna try to minimize this distance between off throttle and on throttle. Now the next corner is super difficult. What you have to do is to look at this grass right here on the left side, and the moment that you start the grass appearing more and more, you will turn more and more on the left side, because you want a turn in to be aligned with this curve. I did a mistake here because I turned a bit too early, and right now I'm not properly aligned on the curve. I'm using quite a bit of curve, but you can use even more. So if you turn just a bit later, you can have the left tires almost kissing this grass here. So to open up the next one, because the next one is a blind corner, and you want to do everything that's in your power to prepare it. So opening it up a lot, having the tires in proper temperatures, and so on. Nevertheless, you're gonna start applying the brakes whenever you're mounting the curve. And then what I'm using is this end of the curve right here as a reference for turning. You will turn in quite sharply, because you want to cut this curve a lot. It's not gonna be an off track, you have to cut it. And even though the car gets pushed to this part of the curve, you can still balance the car with the throttle. So even though the car is almost slingshotted into the curve, that's okay, because you will carry a lot of speed to make up for that. Now the next corner, I spun a lot of times in this corner. So the fixed setup, I don't think it helps too much with the way that the car handles whenever the elevation changes, because what I'm using is this curve to open up the corner, and the moment that I'm mounting it and I'm using all the track to the grass here, I'm applying the brakes. But what I found is that if you're gonna try to do this corner as you're doing F4, F3 for example, and putting the power down nice and early after the braking, is not gonna work. The car will just spin. It happened to me more than 20 times. So you have to delay your throttle application. I think there are two approaches here. You either don't use the curb and you're a bit earlier on throttle, but you're gonna carry less speed overall, or you're gonna use the curb but you have to delay a bit the throttle. For me, that was the only thing that worked, to delay a bit the throttle. So what I'm doing here, I'm apexing around this curve but not touching it, and generally at this point I would have been already back on throttle, but because I can't do it, I'm just trailing a bit more, and at this point I'm back on throttle. So I would try to be on throttle a bit earlier and see if you can get it, but if not, then just delay a bit the throttle application, using here all this track on the exit. And for the next corner, I'm using the second line on the tarmac as a reference for braking, so I'm going past the first line. At the second line, I'm applying the brakes, but be mindful to not cut this curb right here, because it will push you very weird and you will also lose grip if you go on top of it. This is exactly what happens in my lap. So this lap was probably half a second slower because of some mistakes. This was one of them. You want to apex around this orange line, and you want to use this compression here, because the road goes like this. It's a compression going forward, and you have a lot of grip on that compression. So you have the opportunity to put the power down nice and early and 100%. And if you will have one or two tires that are not in the compression zone, then you will lose a bit of grip and you will lose a bit of time. What happens for me is that I try to put the power down as soon as the compression starts, maybe a bit later. So maybe the braking point was a bit late. So maybe you should start braking in more regards to the first line. So almost in the middle, almost here to applying the brakes. I think my braking was a bit too late. I think that was the root cause, because you want at this point to be putting the power down. It was a bit too late for me, and also you don't want to get this curb, so avoid it. Now for this corner that leads to a big straight, what I'm using as a reference for braking is the moment that the car is almost straight. I'm applying the brakes because you want to brake with the steering wheel as straight as possible. Obviously you'll have a bit of steering angle, but the most efficiency under braking is gonna be achieved whenever the steering wheel is more straight. So whenever you feel that to straighten up the car, immediately apply the brakes. Use all the track, but don't brake on this curb. And right now when you're turning and you're trailing, avoid getting this curb and that one too much, because the car will just lose a bit of grip. It wasn't ideal for me as well, but that's the main thing to focus. And now if we go into the last corner, what I'm using as a reference for braking is this line near the curb. So I'm looking at this line, and slightly before it, I'm peaking 100% here. Braking is the only place where I brake to 100%, because you have a lot of speed, you have a lot of downforce that is gonna help you to decelerate. So picking 100, holding 100, don't use this curve because the car will lose traction whenever it goes on that curve. That curve is almost like in waves, and the tire won't make contact with the tarmac at all points, so you will lose a bit of grip under braking. Don't use this. You can use a bit of it when you're turning, but it's not the case in my lap. Now trailing into this corner, it's important to cut here a lot and then put the power down nice and hard and cut this one a lot. I had to do this lift here, but ideally what I think that's gonna be a good lap is if you're able to put this power down to 100%, to give it like a spike of 100, and then doing the lift at this curb, then bring it back at 100 at this curb. And also notice that I'm using all the track to the grass. It's important here because this is a huge straight right now, again till turn 1. So in short, that's a track guide of Road Atlanta with Super Formula. I wish you a great week ahead, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.